Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on where you are located. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Margot Schmorak. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Hostfully. And I am so excited to be talking with one of our really Europe expert partners, which is HomeToGo, about the state of the European vacation rental industry. They have come with loads of data and insights about the way that the industry is performing, and we're so excited to hear from them about what they've found. Let's see. So Rachel Tabellion is the head of sales at HomeToGo, and she's going to be presenting the information today. But before we get started, I would love it if the people in the audience could take a minute and look at some of the polls that we have published. You should see polls in there. There's several questions, and they will really help us understand what a little bit about you, and that will help us give better information during this webinar that will be more relevant to you. So, oh great, so I can see the polls are working. I think some of these I need to publish again. Hang on just a second. You should see several questions in here. Yeah, so just take a minute and answer the poll questions. We're really curious what people think about when do you think travel will get back to normal levels? And I already see one response in there for a very optimistic Q4 of 2021. So good for you. I'm excited about that. I'm a little bit less optimistic than that, but I know that we're going to be bouncing back quickly, especially for leisure travel. So anyway, when you get a chance, please fill out the polling questions on the right-hand side. And again, this is Rachel, and my name is Margot, and we're going to be going through the European vacation rental industry trends and insights that we're expecting for 2021. So before we get started, is there anything else that you want to add, Rachel, about how we're going to run, or do you want to just get started? Because you've got so much content to get through. I think.
Yeah. Thank you, Margot. First off, hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. And thank you, Margot, very much for having us. It's always a pleasure. And it's pretty exclusive data, actually, we're going to be sharing today. So pretty insightful, I hope, for our audience. No, I think you covered everything. So I'm just excited to get rolling and show everyone what we looked into. All these data, all these customer survey, property manager survey, as well as data taken from our websites. Awesome.
Take it away. Thank you.
I will. All right. Let's dig right into it. That's the agenda. So just, to give you a rough idea of how I'm going to structure that, I'm going to look at 2020 to start with, what have been the results of the year, and then I'll be looking at 2021. What do we see so far? What are guests, property managers planning with this year? And how does that relate to your activity? And giving you a couple of tips as well, how to leverage those trends. If you have questions, comments, anything you don't understand, please use the question functionality, and we'll make sure to cover them. Maybe not right away, but for sure to take some time as well at the end of the presentation. All right, let's jump into it. Takeaways, first of all. So we looked at all of Europe, and then we thought that would be super exciting to look at two very different markets. And we picked Spain and Germany. And you'll see it's super exciting to see that although we are, those two countries are in Europe, they actually have quite different booking behaviors. 2020 looked different for both of these markets. And 2021 is also looking already different. So we decided to focus on those two countries. If you have further questions about specific markets that are not covered today, feel free to reach out to us. You get our contact details. We're happy to look into the data for you. 3 takeaways so far we've identified for 2020. First off, that Europeans actually plan with shorter notice. This whole spontaneous booking, waiting until the last moment, understanding, okay, what's happening with the different lockdowns and measures in place that had a huge impact on last year. When we started comparing Germany and Spain, we actually saw that Germany had the lowest average booking value, whereas Spain had the highest. So we'll come to that slide in a moment, but pretty interesting to see that there was quite a big difference here. And finally, although those bookings happen on shorter notice than usual, Europeans also book longer stays. So those two trends really coexisted in parallel the entire year and are staying in 2021. So it's really something we have to deal with as vacation rentals professionals. Let me have a quick look as well at some of the questions, and Hostfully is already on it, so I don't even need to look at it. Good. Let's look at the first data.
Rachel, just wanted to, because we got a few of the same question, this webinar is being recorded. So as a registrant, you will get a follow-up email after this with a link to the webinar recording. So if anybody else has that question, I just wanted to make sure people knew the answer to it as well. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying. All right. So good. And I think someone's already asking like longer than what? So in terms of book longer stays, longer than they did the year before, right? So we look at 2020 and how did it refer to or compare with 2019, and then we'll be looking at 2021 so far. So 2020, Europeans plan with shorter notice. So we also partnered up with Transparent, some revenue intelligence company. They are doing really great things for property managers. If you don't know them, you can go check them out. So we put our data together as well, and we looked at different behaviors depending on the market. And you can see on the really cool graph that, wow, it depends pretty much on the market as well, right? So on average, we saw actually lead time decreasing, but if you look at Italy, for instance, it increased between 2019 and 2020. But then if you look at Germany, it decreased very much. So what to make out of that? Well, that there is not like one kind of situation fits all, that it was pretty different on the market and pretty different throughout the year as well, because we had kind of last minute announcements as well from governments, we had restrictions in place. So all of that played a big role. But in general, something we see as well reflected by property managers when we asked them, because we conducted as well a property manager survey, in addition to pulling the booking data from our platform, 90% of property managers we interviewed said that they've actually made their cancellation policies more flexible. And this whole flexibility topic has been extremely big last year and is actually here to stay as well this year. Actually, even 52% of them said that they're offering free cancellation this year, which is pretty impressive because, the whole cancellation topic has been a little bit different in our industry compared to other industry, like the hotel industry. And this is one of the trends you'll see will stick with us. Something we always advise our partners, our clients, and in general property managers, we understand it's not the same situation for everyone, so it needs to be a little bit adjusted depending on the situation, is make your cancellation policies more flexible. Make them free if you can, with certain restrictions if you want, but offer this flexibility to the guests. They are booking at the moment. They started booking pretty heavily since the beginning of the year, and this is definitely something they really value. And obviously the risk of having last minute cancellations is higher in those cases, but this is something you can make up for, given that we also saw that being more spontaneous with bookings is something that's been very big. So there is some kind of balance that's here to be found. Not saying it's easy, but that being flexible with cancellation policies is definitely something that guests are looking for.
Do you, Rachel, this is a really hot topic, I think, amongst property managers, which is how to be how flexible to be. And it kind of reminds me of like pricing strategies too, where like once do you guys see like property managers making their policies more flexible and then kind of like changing them as the the environment changes? And do you think that that's acceptable? Like so let's say for a short period of time regulations are, I don't know, like, or there's a higher rate of COVID in the area, and then they have to be more flexible, but then they can change them back. Like how do property managers manage that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's a good point, because it's kind of hard sometimes to figure it out, and it changes so much depending on how far away is actually the booking. So in general, if it's what's happening right now, right? We have many travelers at the moment booking for the summer, for instance, and they're massively looking for flexible cancellation policies, if not free cancellation policies, because they want to book, they can't wait. They really want to travel. Weather is becoming nice. Everyone's thinking about the summer vacation. But at the same time, even if vaccination is going on, even if in several markets slowly, we are reopening, there is still this insecurity. And right now is really the moment to be flexible. But you're right, actually, throughout the year, and especially towards the summer, those kind of last minute bookings, there, you can be way less flexible, because it's this kind of last minute choice of, okay, now I really want to, go there next week. So having less flexibility is totally acceptable. So I would say, the further away the booking is, the more flexible you should be. And then throughout time, you can kind of reduce this flexibility. And it's great because, especially if you use Hostfully, this is something you can definitely adjust your cancellation policies. And for instance, on HomeToGo, we use your own cancellation policy. So no worries about that. You can be very flexible about it. Flexible about your flexibility. That's not a problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Cool. So be flexible. And we looked at 2020 again, and we saw that average booking value was also pretty different depending on the market. Pretty interesting. Again, we looked at Germany, we looked at Spain specifically, and saw there was quite a big gap between them, where we saw also longer stays, for instance, in Spain, shorter stays in Germany, very much linked as well to the different situations. Again, there is no big trend to be highlighted here, just that it was very different depending on the market. And that even looking at average daily rate from 2019 to 2020, looking at Spain, for instance, we actually saw an increase by 18%. So also all of these kind of last minute bookings right before the summer benefited nonetheless, even though the situation was complicated, many very popular markets like Spain, like Italy as well. Good. Looking already at 2021, what is there to stay? Drive to destinations, for sure. Super important. We see that car is still very much preferred on average among Europeans traveling at the moment. Again, this kind of spontaneity as well is super important. We see that's in Spain still, super interesting to see that still plane is a very popular choice. This is also related to the fact that we see in Spain, COVID measures have been relaxed a little bit early. The situation was a bit better. So there is also this hope it is in this willingness to take the plane again, whereas in Germany, for instance, we're still under pretty strict lockdown, where the idea to kind of take a plane and travel to another country we're still a bit cautious about it. So some differences here. But in general, last minute bookings that we saw last year are definitely still happening this year. And this is, again, flexibility being here at its really most important. Talking about hitting the road, what kind of groups are traveling and what kind of personas are traveling? In general, we saw that bigger groups have declined logically, and that we're more looking at traveling with your partner or traveling with your family, which is still an interesting difference, again, by the way, between Germany and Spain, where people traveling within Germany are mostly traveling as a family, and in Spain actually traveling as a couple. And in terms of spendings, what we see, it's pretty high at the moment. We see an average booking value at 1,200, changed slightly, but that was from end of January. But this is what we're seeing. We saw an increase, 20% from last year already. But keep in mind, again, what we just mentioned with Margot as well, we are ahead of time. So people are booking for a little bit later as well during the year, booking longer, revenge travel. They can't wait. They want to stay a little bit longer away as well. So this is probably an average we're going to see decreasing slowly during the year. That's why it's super important actually to capture those bookings now, because with such a high, again, it's on average, so it might depend a little bit on the market, but generally for all markets, we see now really the highest booking values at the moment. So make sure you capture those bookings right now. Mm-hmm. Good. And in terms of destinations, everything related to outdoors, rural destinations, not being too crowded is pretty important. So we see 9 in 10 guests at the moment in Europe preferring those rural destinations. Again, slight differences between Germany and Spain are the two markets we looked at a bit more precisely in this analysis. Nonetheless, let's not forget that, for instance, in Spain, many of the cities are actually on the beach. So here there are also some overlaps for sure. But in general, we're seeing that everything that's outside, everything, enjoying the outdoors is super popular. And this is actually something that's very actionable as well for you as a property manager. It's something we also advise very strongly. No matter where your property is located, even if it's not in the middle of the mountain or whatever, it's super important to highlight this on your description and maybe rethink a little bit your pictures as well. What do you highlight on your pictures? If you have any pictures of like crowded beach or anything that can give a sense of tightness and kind of not really being able to respect social distancing, would be nice to highlight maybe another angle of what your property is able to offer. Maybe there is a super nice garden that can be enjoyed on your own as a guest. So these are also important points to think about, and always reflect on your descriptions, on your pictures, and understand what is actually the message that's being conveyed here. Yeah. And important to see that it's reflected on your booking channels.
Yes, I can't emphasize this one enough. And I think that the photos, the description is important because for search, that's really important. But then also for the photos, like, having the one photo, 1, 2, or 3 of your listing should be outdoor space. Because that's something that people are really yearning for. And I actually, when I was looking at this data of Germany versus Spain, I mean, I know that both the countries have tons of outdoor space. So there's no actual difference. But I think that the perception of Spain and Germany is that like Spain is more relaxed and there's more space. And I wonder like how much that influences people's, I mean, it's kind of a whimsical way of like thinking about the way consumer behavior is working, but I wonder how much that influences how people are making travel decisions about which country to go to.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you. And again, we see a lot of domestic travel at the moment as well, meaning that also, again, the mentality, if you're living in Germany at the moment, it's pretty strict lockdown. So the mindset you're in as well is probably slightly different than in Spain, where it was a little bit more relaxed. I think this plays a big role as well, totally, on what's being booked, for sure.
But if you're willing to live with very flexible cancellation policies and then you should be fine either way, right? There's a lot of demand to go around. So
so much. And we're actually seeing, and we'll see that later, like when we have a couple of quotes from property managers, but we saw property managers being hopeful, that this year would go back to normal, at least slightly. And some property managers are actually already telling us like, wow, they're seeing like booking trends that are just all-time high. For certain destinations. I'm thinking of the UK, for instance. A couple of weeks back, the UK, with their big, massive vaccination strategy, they announced that they would reopen, pretty quickly, and we saw like a boom in reservations right away. So there is also like a really strong link to, okay, what's happening currently, and how hopeful, I guess, as well. So we can only be hopeful that this will just be more and more the case. In terms of popular destinations within those countries, I mean, nothing too crazy about that. Apart that, again, we're seeing within those destinations specifically areas that are very popular, for hiking, enjoying the outdoors. If you've never been to Bavaria, you can go there, enjoy the fresh air, going to the mountains. So all those activities as well that are, especially during the summer, sometimes a little bit kind of second options for certain travelers, who are usually kind of towel to towel at the beach, are now evolving also a bit more into that direction of, okay, let's go to a nice destination, but let's make sure we can have enough space around us. Good. Something we also wanted to share with you, given that we looked at the data, but we also looked at this consumer and property manager survey we ran in Europe, but also in the US. That cleanliness is still so important for guests. I mean, again, it's here to stay, honestly, and I can't imagine, even if COVID it's just suddenly magically over, I think it will stay with us for a very long time. I think we can all relate to that personally. And if you look at Spanish guests, for instance, more than half of them really mentioned that, yes, cleanliness and extra cleaning measures were so important for them when they're choosing a property to rent. And we were actually very happy to see that 98% already of property managers are highlighting those measures in their description. Really good, because when we did the same survey in the US, it wasn't as overwhelming, so really well done. Nonetheless, we still noticed that 81% of those property managers we interviewed did not necessarily reflect it on the final price. So we're not saying, to use COVID as an excuse to inflate your prices, absolutely not. But it's pretty straightforward and logic to think that you as property managers probably invested more time, more resources into those extra cleaning measures, might be hiring more cleaners, might be actually, having to wait before the last checkout and the next check-in. So all of that actually have a cost. And we just want to encourage you to, if there is a price tag on that, really not to shy away from reflecting this on the final price, because this is something guests are very understandable about, and actually feel reassured if they see something like that. So don't be afraid. Again, make sure this is clearly stated on the description. Even have a picture about it. If you have a special kit you use, or if you have something you put at their disposal in terms of, cleaning products they can use also within the home, make a picture of it, add it to your property. It's really something that's making guests feel very, very reassured about COVID, obviously.
Yeah, I just have a little bit of an insight to share. So we do studies of data all the time, and another American-centric bookings platform shared some data on this, which I thought was really interesting and would actually kind of strangely complement what you're saying, even though it was quite different. Which is, they said that in the search, they don't see people searching for cleanliness as a differentiating factor, but I think what you're saying is it's in the decision making. So it's like, search for house on a lake or barbecue or hot tub or whatever it is. Like, they're going to search for certain criteria for the property, but at the end of the day, they might make the decision based on cleanliness, right? Like, so it's kind of a funny thing where it's important to have, but it's not the primary search criteria. So it's something to think about, especially I personally love having that in the photos. I think like having a photo that shows, a few bullets of text of these are the things that we do with a little seal at the bottom, that you could make that pretty easily, an overlay over one of your photos. I think that's a great way to convey that. And it's just like a check the box kind of thing for the traveler, but it may not be the thing that they're searching on, but it will be a reason why they choose you over the next rental. So I think
it's a good point. I mean, no one is searching for a perfectly white, clean, kind of environment where you feel like you're in a hospital, right? It's not about that. So it's about the property and how fitting it is in the environment and how well at home you feel. But this nudge of, hey, by the way, it's also super clean, and we are being extremely cautious about it and putting your safety first. That's really what will convince them to actually book with you. So super important. I like the idea of the picture with the checklist. I think it's really good. It's really easy to make, and it makes a difference. So that's definitely a really cool advice. Mm-hmm. Interesting takes as well on how property managers are securing their future. We gave them a couple of choices, and top ones were really diversifying their revenue channels. Awesome. This is what we are. This is what also Hostfully offers, making sure your properties can be distributed onto different platforms. So really cool. 91% interested in listing on another booking platform, another OTA they were not connected with at the moment. So obviously a cool trend that we're all embracing here. And in terms of personas, very, very important and very interesting facts here. So more bookings coming from families. I think, as an industry, we always been pretty used to catering for the needs of families. So I wouldn't say it's a no-brainer, but I would say, I think we're aware of it, and I think it's really good to keep that in mind. The other piece of information, though, 57% of property managers noticing more bookings from guests wanting to work remotely. I think that is a big, new trend. And this is something that really shouldn't be overlooked. And this is something we thought, we could definitely give you more insights about, in some kind of a little checklist of the things you definitely need if you want to attract those remote workers. Think about it. It's not anymore for us about catering for the needs of vacationers. It's actually catering for the needs of people, working. So yes, it's awesome to be in a nice property and have a change of scenery, but they are very down to earth amenities you need if you want to be working comfortably. And I think we can all relate to it on a very personal level. High-speed, stable internet. It's not enough to have this little, yes, we have Wi-Fi and you check the amenity. Like, again, like for cleaning measures, please make it extremely clear, and please don't lie, how strong and stable your internet connection is. To have that kind of setup, being able to be several people on the call with camera on, enough bandwidth, presenting something, holding a webinar, something like this. That's super important. I know personally, from like friends, like we just have to stand in one little corner really to get this one, bar more of connection so that they can do their work. That's just terrible. So make sure it's very clear for your guests. Access to essentials. I mean, working, the entire day at your desk alone, it's not super funny. So being able to get out around the corner, get something, take away food, walk around a little bit, super important and insightful information for guests and for remote workers. Comfortable workspace. Again, this kind of, I'm just going to work from the, kitchen table or kind of the couch. I think it's been a year. We all know it doesn't work. Make it obvious that, there is a little corner where you can just feel at your kind of office, even if nicer. And honestly, getting like a proper chair, like an office chair, or even like I got myself a gamer chair, like literally, because it's just the most comfortable. It doesn't cost much, and it just adds so much value because you can feel comfortable, you can be productive the whole day. And last but not least, and this is probably something as well we need to reconsider in the industry, allowing pets. Because when you go on vacation, if you have a pet, you might have to find someone to take care of your pet. So pet sitting, and you can do it for 1-2 weeks, and that's fine. That's a budget, but it's okay. But just imagine if you want to work remote for a month, 2 months. I mean, you're going to take your pet with you. So if you want to reconsider that, if you don't yet offer this flexibility, or if you want to make it very prominent on your description, making sure the amenity is properly reflected on your booking channels. I think this is also super, super important because, these are definitely the filters remote workers would be using for sure to choose your property and more comfortably remote as well. Good. So I'm going to close this on a couple of quotes from our property managers, and what are they actually looking forward to. Obviously, that we're back to normal, that's for sure. Seeing bookings booming again and again. We mentioned today already that it's happening in certain markets. So yes, we are all very excited about that. Restrictions, ending or actually being lifted a little bit more and more. This is something obviously everyone's very much looking forward to. And just normally getting similar results compared to previous years. Again, there is probably, there won't be like a complete return to normal in the upcoming weeks or months, but we're seeing a really positive trends. We're seeing great results. We're seeing guests eager to travel. This travel revenge, as we call it, is very strong. So this is how we want to get those bookings, and this is how we hope we can help you get those bookings as well.
Can you talk a little bit about some of the changes that you've seen now that the vaccine has started to roll out in different regions? Like, do you have data about that, or just in general?
Yeah, well, we see, for instance, that's very strong. So related to vaccination, again, the UK case has been one of the strongest one, right? So very strong vaccination campaigns there, plus then announcing reopening and easing up the lockdown. Mm-hmm. Right away, boom in bookings. The other way around, so it wasn't related to the vaccine in France, but I know that, and we've noticed this very strongly as well on our platforms. Everyone was a little bit scared about actually the lockdown happening again, like a bit more stricter, and it didn't happen. And we see then bookings booming again. So this kind of like wait and see, and people reacting very last minute as well on the evolution of the pandemic has been extremely strong still this year. And I mean, one of the cases we see at the moment, so with the US as well, it is that, not saying we shouldn't have any restrictions whatsoever when it comes to the pandemic, but we're seeing the US market right now going really like crazy in terms of bookings and in terms of willingness to travel. Really insane. So also there are big vaccination campaigns happening, plus not so many measures as well in certain parts of the country. So that's probably also having an influence there. But in general, we always see this kind of chain of events, right? So positive news about vaccination, positive news about reopening or easing up the measures, and right away bookings actually increasing very strongly. And given that it happens kind of, from one day to the other, a little bit depending on the market, I think it's super important for property managers to be always ready, and just to make sure that everything is properly set up to really grasp and capture those bookings.
I also want to, we have a thing to share with everybody that's a really exciting new paper that's going to be coming out that HomeToGo is going to be putting out, right, which is called The Return of Travel, which will talk about what is going to happen after COVID. But I'm curious to get your perspective, because you spent a lot of time looking at the data here. So if you take last year, January or February, and just the demand levels there for vacation rentals, before, when we were totally ignorant about a global pandemic and we had no idea this was going to happen. And then you kind of fast forward to once, the bulk of the world, whether it's Q4 2021 or Q1 2023, we've got a bunch of different answers. When it's over, do you feel like this, that the pandemic will have accelerated demand for vacation rentals, or do you feel like it will go back to normal? I'm kind of curious. I know that revenge travel is a real thing, and I think there's a lot of pent up demand, but I also feel like it's been a general acceleration because I think we've converted people from hotels actually to alternative. What I'm wondering is what you're seeing with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's for sure. When you look at the popularity of vacation rentals, was already very popular, but indeed, as you mentioned, for instance, with hotels, unfortunately for them, it's going to be very hard because, again, it's really now so strongly, I think, in everyone's mind that you never know what can happen, right? Let's rather have your own space. Let's rather, be with your friends, with your family, than with 200 strangers in a closed space where you have so many surfaces that are being touched by so many different people. So I think this is definitely something that's very that's played very much in our favor and will continue to play in our favor, even if, again, no matter when this happens, but COVID is completely over and we can all return to our normal lives. I think VR will be there to stay as the preferred option whatsoever. And I think, again, we talked about cancellation policies and flexibility as well. And I think that was definitely something where I would say maybe we were not as advanced, on that topic as an industry as maybe the hotel industry, and where you would typically sometimes as a guest would turn to a hotel because you knew you had more flexibility. You could even use filters that you couldn't really use, on a vacation rental platform, right? Like flexible cancellation, that wasn't really a thing. You had to go through each and every kind of property and be like, okay, what's the rule with them? What's the rule with them? So I think this will be a real game changer, forcing us a little bit to shaking us a little bit, but it's probably for the best because we're going to be more competitive, towards maybe other industries like the hotel industry. So I think it's, I agree there is revenge travel right now for, kind of catching up from what didn't happen and then return to normal, but it's not the end. I think we're definitely going to go higher than that and just benefit from it eventually on the longer term, obviously as an industry, but a lot on the way that we'll have learned for sure to make our industry even more successful.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really exciting time for the industry because I think COVID has accelerated, but not totally changed the game in terms of the knowledge, the innovation of technology in the industry. And now, but it pushed us to all go a little bit faster, and it pushed property managers to make the hard choices that they maybe would have put off for like a year or two. And now there's no going back. Like you have to automate a bunch of things. You have to have a system that can work flexibly with you. And on the Hostfully side of things, we've seen the need for automation, the need for more technology in the business to be just accelerated. Actually, I just want to quickly mention too, we didn't even say what HomeToGo and Hostfully do, but if I could just say that right now.
Apart from those great webinars, what do we actually do the rest of the day?
Exactly. So here, let me make this slide a little bit bigger. So we have two products. Hostfully has two products, a property management platform and digital guidebooks. The property management platform helps to distribute your listings across multiple bookings platforms, including HomeToGo, which is why we're so excited to be working with HomeToGo to share some of the insights back to our customers. And then, oh, I lost it. Okay. And then we also help you to automate messaging, automate payments, and get reporting on your business, and manage your customers, manage your bookings, and try to maximize your occupancy rates. So there's a lot of value in that platform, and that's really what we're seeing in terms of technology innovation and customers being willing to go through like the challenge actually of getting all those set up properly for their business, but realizing that it's going to pay off, right? Like at the end of the day, this is going to be a big improvement over where they've been before. So that's our property management platform. And then the digital guidebooks are, we have over 25,000 digital guidebooks around the world in 80 countries. And these are a mobile first website that's dedicated to a property that helps the guests understand directions to the property, local recommendations, where the local grocery store is. And then the property manager also can merchandise and sell additional services through the Hostfully marketplace. So we're also seeing a lot of interest in that product as well, as people are trying to figure out how to create a touchless experience, right? So they don't have to do everything in person with the guests, but also how to make more money and actually improve the guest experience, because making more money and improving the guest experience can go together. They should. So anyway, that's what Hostfully does. And those are our two products. And then let's see, I guess we didn't have a slide on just HomeToGo, but do you want to give a quick overview? Oh, here it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. So if you guys haven't figured out until now, we are a booking channel. We've been around for 7 years now. We're based in Berlin, Germany, but we have a very strong international footprint that's so able to pull this data about the European markets as well as the US as well. And we are there to bring more bookings to property managers. We have a couple of really, really great features that property managers enjoy a lot. So we have fast payout. Right now, as I mentioned, you can use the cancellation policies with us. So perfect, to actually be flexible. What we mentioned with Margot today. And we are very grateful to have Hostfully as a partner. So great integration, super fast but qualitative onboarding. We can set you up in less than 2 weeks, meaning that everything you've heard today, all the data you've looked at today, you can literally be trying out within 2 weeks with us. You pay us per booking generated, a commission. So no setup fees, no contract duration. You try us out, you check us out, see if we can do something good for you. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do. And we share this amazing data with you as well regularly. That's what we try to do.
Yep, exactly. And then the final thing is that we have 2 white papers that the insights that we presented today are not even in these white papers. This is like a whole new set of insights.
Yeah.
HomeToGo has a white paper about the future of travel, and Hostfully has a white paper about hospitality trends. These are like what customers are asking for in their listing they might not be getting. So all of this can be really valuable to property managers as they're thinking about their business, right? So I just wanted to make sure to let people know about this as well.
Yeah, and again, we're really producing these reports for you guys, for property managers. So if there is anything that's in your opinion is missing, an angle we haven't really looked at, we're very excited to hear from you and understand how can we make it even more insightful.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, we had a few questions for the audience, and thank you, Stuart, for reminding us. Let's include a link to these white papers from the email, and I'll try to figure out how to do that. Maybe we'll follow up with an email with the link to those specific white papers. That would be great. And thank you to everyone who posted questions in here. We had a lot of questions about whether it's going to be recorded, so I'm excited about that because we actually had a US-centric version of this, and we had about 100 attendees, and this one we had only about 20, so we're really hoping that we can spread the word because this is really valuable information that's not a sales presentation, but it's really meant to help property managers just make better decisions about how they think about COVID and their business and what they can do best for themselves. So we're really excited to have everyone who's been on the webinar today. Thank you for joining us. We'll be sharing this. Please feel free to share it with your community far and wide so that they can learn as well. Rachel, any parting words before we wrap up here?
Thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, Hostfully. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you have any more questions, we're there to answer them all. If you need a demo, super happy to do so. And otherwise, excited to get this year rolling and capture all of those bookings together.
Yes. All right. Well, it's great talking to you, Rachel. Nice to see you again. I love partnering on
Nice to see you.
All right. Take care, everybody. Talk to you later.
Thanks so much. Ciao, ciao.